McAfee getting Epsteined. Yeah, you have a personal fascination with McAfee, don't you?
I do indeed. He's a very interesting character. I mean, he was actually... I was only thinking a few days ago, if I had to interview someone, it would have probably been him. And then a few days later, he turns out to have committed suicide.
Yeah, so... yeah, go on. But the first thing here is just a little bit of a background. So, I mean, you know more about him as a person than I do. I've just done some very timelining of this. So the first thing is in 2012, where this all sort of starts to crumble, is him getting suspected in a murder in Belize. So this is after he moves to Belize, after making billions of dollars selling the McAfee software, I think it was to Intel, and then enjoying life like a good man. I mean, if we scroll down here, just the first image, yep. I mean, that's a hell of a life. You can see him in the middle there with his top off, with the guys around him with guns and the ladies and dogs. Yeah, all right. So in here they say, among the exotic episodes surrounding his career is in 2012 the death of his neighbor in Belize, where McAfee lived surrounded by dogs, guards, and young women. The neighbor died of a shot to the head, and when the police wanted to question the founder of the antivirus company to ask him if he knew what happened, he fled, claiming that the authorities would charge him with the crime or even kill him if they caught him. So, I mean, not great look to flee, but his accusation being the cops would kill him.
I think he was, I don't know whether it's valid or not, he was worried that the authorities were out to get him because of some kind of persecution with some other unrelated thing, and he just thought that he would catch the rap anyway just because they wanted him gone.
So I read elsewhere that apparently leading up to this, the Belizean Gang Suppression Unit had raided his house beforehand, and they found unlicensed drug manufacturing and possession of unlicensed weapons, which I believe. There's no reason not to believe that. So
I think even he would own up to that.
Yeah,
like, yes.
I also read that he claimed that they've seized his property there, or at least after this, and they also tried to burn down his house, but I don't know the details of that.
I know that in the actual murder itself, the leading up to that, I think his neighbour actually shot his dog or something like that as well, which kind of further suggested that it was him, but he denied it until the grave, so I don't know. Obviously not taking him at his word, but there's certainly cause to believe that he was involved, but I don't know the full story.
Wasn't proved, so
yeah,
no evidence of it so far. Anyway, but the guy is an absolute meme lord. I mean, not just in his life. I mean, the videos he made online, so this, in case people haven't seen it, is How to Uninstall McAfee Antivirus by John McAfee. And he says in here that he hasn't been with the company for like 15 years, and he just doesn't know how, so screw it. And then just gets surrounded by women and drugs and guns for the rest of the video. So let's play this first clip, in case people haven't seen it.
You know, something went wrong. 15 years ago, I had some beautiful software, and they took it over. I don't know what they did. It was like the time I hired that Bangkok prostitute to do my taxes while my accountant. It was terrible. The same thing is going on now. But I know what to do. I know exactly what to do. Believe me, I've got a solution right here.
I just love it. Like, billionaire, what does he do? Should post on the internet. Why not? Anyway,
that video is great.
Fantastic. I love it. So the subsequent situation that's made everyone a bit suspicious about all this is he kept posting tweets and messages about how he believed he was going to be killed by the authorities in a, let's say, similar way to Epstein, in the fact that he just suicide yourself. So this is the oldest tweet on this subject. So in June 9th, he says, June 9th, 2019, I've collected files on corruption in governments. For the first time, I'm naming names and specifics. I'll begin with a corrupt CIA agent and two Bahamian officials. Coming today, if I'm arrested or disappeared, 31 plus terabytes of incriminating data will be released to the press. So I guess we're looking for the 31 terabytes. It's a lot of data. Anyway, the next message from him that's a bit suspicious is him getting the word whacked tattooed on his arm. Like, just, okay. And the explanation he gives, if you scroll back up there, is, there's the message from him in which he says, getting subtle messages from US officials saying, in effect, we're coming for you, McAfee. We're going to kill yourself. I got a tattoo today just in case. If I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked. Check my right arm.
Yeah, I mean, that casts a whole different light on what has just happened.
I'm assuming this is in response to Epstein's whacking, and then him being like, well, if I go the same way, I'm going to make sure people know that it's not suicide. So we go to the next link. This is a Facebook post in which he made a video talking about exactly this. So if we play the next clip, this is him talking here. The audio's a bit bad, but hopefully you'll hear.
If I am suicided, then this will be the final word right here. I will not suicide myself. So if I have been, the truth is right here on my right arm, unless they cut it off after I've suicided myself. And there you have it.
Yeah, so him saying explicitly, I'm putting this on my arm, because in case I suicide myself, it wasn't suicide. Check my arm. So then there's the next tweet here, in October 2020. I am content in here, I have friends, the food is good, all is well, know that if I hang myself a la Epstein, it will be no fault of mine. This is him after being arrested for tax evasion, for crypto trading, and apparently the sales of his biography. The IRS were complaining that they didn't get enough skibs from all of that. So he got arrested, he got sent to prison in Spain, pending discussions about extraditing to the US. And he's saying, I'm fine. Food's good, I'm going to live with prison. It's alright, but it's not great. But if I Epstein myself, I was Epsteined. I didn't Epstein myself.
Yeah, I think the fact he's repeatedly said it again and again kind of suggests that he had no intention of killing himself. I think that much is pretty evident. I don't know whether his situation changed, but I'm kind of erring on the side of maybe not.
So on the 10th of June this year, there's another message, which is also, I think, relevant to this discussion. So him saying, there is much sorrow in prison, disguised as hostility. The sorrow is plainly visible even in the most angry faces. I'm old and content with food and a bed, but for the young, prison is a horror, a reflection of the minds of those who conceived them. Sorry. So he's saying again, like, I'm fine. Like, food and a bed, I can deal with that. Other people, probably horrible. But this is the 10th of June. This is this year, him saying this. And then the next one here is from the 16th of June. This is, there should be a pinned tweet there in which he's have I got that wrong? No, okay, sorry, yeah. 15th of June, he's in court, the YouTube link. Him saying to the court officials that if you send me to America, I'm going to be sent there for the rest of my life. You know, he's 75 years old. Therefore, this is the worst thing you can do to me. Please don't do it. And this is the only piece of evidence so far I've seen that points to his suicide being just suicide, which is him in this courtroom is having to translate to the judge. And you can tell he's a bit exacerbated. But, I mean, with his other tweets, it's difficult. But he is saying, you know, if I get sent to the US, that's the worst thing that can possibly happen to me. So then he pins a tweet the next day, on 16th of June, and this is his pinned tweet on his account. The US believes I have hidden crypto. I wish I did, but it has been dissolved. Sorry, it has been dissolved through the many hands of Team McAfee. Your belief is not required. And my many remaining assets are all seized. My friends evaporated through fear of association. I have nothing, yet I regret nothing. So, I mean, when you've lived a heck of a life like that guy, I mean, why not? But he's saying I've got no money, nothing to take from me. And then on the 20th of June, he retweets a message from Janice McAfee, in which she's thanking him and giving him a happy Father's Day, even though he's in prison. And she says in here, now the US authorities are determined to have John die in prison to make an example of him for speaking out against the corruption within their government agencies. These 8 months John has spent in prison in Spain have been especially hard on his overall health, both mentally and physically, as well as financially. But he is undeterred from continuing to speak truth to power. Happy Father's Day, John David. So, wishing in the bed. But there's two bits there. I mean, she's saying that they're convinced to have him die in prison, but she's also saying that there's a huge hit on his mental health from all this. So it's not like there's zero evidence for the claim that he could have just committed suicide. But with all those tweets and all those messages and the tattoos and whatnot, certainly very, very suspicious. And it'd be silly to say that, oh no, it's just suicide.
I know that this letter could be construed as the fact that, you know, he's 75 and they're saying, well, he could die in prison. It just means that he's going to be in there for a long time, rather than they're going to kill him. To kind of play devil's advocate there.
Yeah. So the next link is the Spanish press reporting that, committed suicide in there. So this is in Spanish. I've had to run it through Google Translate because I don't understand sunken armada. So they say, the founder of McAfee Antivirus, John McAfee, commits suicide in a Barcelona prison after court agrees to extradite him. The businessman was arrested at the El Prat airport last October and was awaiting extradition to the United States for tax evasion. Prison officials have found him hanging, according to police sources, who say they treat the event as suicide. Found him hanging. They don't say what on. I presume like the bed sheets like Epstein or whatever the hell, that took place. I don't think he's on a suicide watch list. They have a separate area for suicidal prisoners, in which different conditions, so they can't kill themselves, which Epstein was on, and then committed suicide. I don't know if they moved him to that area. It doesn't seem they did, so God knows. But we're waiting on the autopsy.
I'm surprised that if he were actually to kill himself, why he would do it in Spain. Maybe there would be opportunity to kind of hamper the process, because it seemed like an ongoing legal process to extradite him to the US. You would expect him to at least wait out until he gets into the US if he were to do something like that. Because at least then there's a chance that, he could get out. It's not a foregone conclusion. So it's kind of like,
I would have thought someone like him as well, when they got to the US and they have the trial, he'd make a complete meme out of it, because why not?
Yeah, well, make a scene out of it. And also, if he's got all of this damaging stuff, surely a trial would be the perfect time for it. Just like, well, actually, I've got all this bad stuff about public officials.
Or just stand in the dock and they'd be like, you're guilty of tax evasion. And he's like, tax is theft. Just shout at the judge. I mean, why not? I mean, he's a libertarian candidate for president back in the day, so yeah. So they say, pending the autopsy, the police have not found any evidence of criminality. The Department of Justice assures that, quote, everything indicates that it could be a death by suicide. The businessman has been incarcerated at the Catalan prison for 8 months. So, I mean, that's the other piece of evidence that's somewhat compelling to the fact that he's just suicide. He's been there for 8 months. It's no short period of time. Been locked in there. They say that he's had a huge impact on his mental health, and he's about to be extradited to the US, in which he says he will be in prison forever. For the rest of his life until he dies, because he's like 75. They're all there, but at the same time, he's publicly saying repeatedly, I'm not going to commit suicide. I'm not going to commit suicide. Anyone who, kills me and tries to claim that I committed suicide, don't believe them. I've got the tattoo. I'm not committing suicide.
Yeah, I actually remember him saying in an interview, like, if I ever disappear, it's not actually my choice. And just my personal opinion, obviously I'm not a clinical psychologist, just a regular psychologist, but I didn't get the impression that he was someone who kind of has the frame of mind to commit suicide. Obviously, I'm certainly no expert, but I just didn't get that impression from him, just hearing him talk. Sure, things change, but you can kind of get a judge of someone's character.
Did you see the clip of him talking to the Spanish judge as well, laying out, if you send me to the US, I'm going to die in prison? Because it's not particularly emotional either. Like, he's not making out like, oh, I'm going to die. It's, so awful. It's
saying
more
it
him being very
matter of fact,
straight,
yeah.
as he is, just like, yeah, if you send me that, I'm going to die. Don't do that. I'm going to end up rotting away in prison for ages. It's not the... he doesn't look like someone who's giving up on life or anything like that. And this is the couple of days before he apparently commits suicide. The only other piece of evidence for him definitely being legit is his lawyer is saying that it was suicide. So, in the case of Epstein, there are immediately a bunch of questions from the people on, well, actually, from Epstein's side and against Epstein's side, being like, whoa, what? Because it made no goddamn sense. And in this case, the lawyer for McAfee is saying it was. So McAfee's lawyer, Javier Villabada, said that the antivirus software pioneer died by hanging, as his 9 months in prison brought him to despair. So his lawyer saying that, yeah, his mental health had just gone to that point. He is tired of being in prison.
I imagine too, kind of an old libertarian as well, being in prison is probably one of the worst things that could happen to you, especially when you've had the life that he has had.
Of extreme freedom.
Exactly.
I mean, F's in the chat. I mean, you don't have to agree with the guy on a lot of stuff. I just kind of, you have to appreciate the life he's lived, at least. Like, just not giving a toss. Just
yeah, he definitely lived his life on his own terms. That's the one thing you can take away.
Yeah. The only other thing about this that's really, really strange is the queue. So, this is Mike Rothschild here, posting that John McAfee's final Instagram post. A giant queue. The post went up around 1:15 PST, meaning he was likely already dead. but he or someone on his team knew exactly what to do to achieve maximum shitposting effect. So just his Instagram account posting the letter Q, and then it got destroyed. His Instagram account is deleted. Presumably because I think QAnon posting is banned there now.
I think that's all we can really say about that.
Yeah. Although I do love the idea that... So the evidence so far, I mean, it's all the things in there for him to have actually killed himself do seem to be there. You know, a reasonable reason. He's been in there for 9 months. It's horrible for a guy like him. All the rest of it. Like, there's reasons for him to commit suicide. And there's the means. Surely he's not in a suicide prevention area like Epstein was. So I wonder whether or not there is a little bit of that kind of thing, trolling going on from his team, posting that Q. But at the same time, with so many Facebook and Twitter posts being like, I'm not going to do it. I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to commit suicide. And if I do, they've done it to me.
Yeah. People who say that repeatedly and emphatically don't go out and then commit suicide, do they? I think you can take them at their word.
Unless
Maybe at the
unless
time.
he's like the highest IQ troll of all time, and he's like, I'm gonna do these posts over a series of years to make it show that. So then when I actually do it in 2 years' time, then it'll have maximum effect. But nah, don't buy that.
If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.